Welcome to another awesome new episode. Today I've got Tom Ward, host of the Tom Ward Show. He also writes for Forbes. Really love his work. Have been following his work for quite a bit. And so I've just for some context, I've been the first time I've kind of saw Tom was on his YouTube show actually. And then I watched some episodes, some really interviews. I remember like the widescreen, like it was all white. It was like really, really well done. And then I found out you write for Forbes. So I also started reading some of those articles. So thanks, man, for taking the time to be on the show. Really appreciate you.
Of course. Well, thank you for taking the time to watch and read my content, man. I really appreciate you.
Awesome. So can you just like tell us a little bit about yourself? I understand you had like a regular 9 to 5 day job, and you decided to kind of just throw that away.
Yeah, 100%. I'm about as regular a guy. If you can't see me, if you are listening to the podcast, I'm a 44-year-old bald dad. Okay. I didn't go to an Ivy League school. I didn't start $1 million, startup like someone who's listening to this or reading this might have, so you guys got that on me. Just a regular guy. I was a fuck up when I was a kid. I had some issues with alcohol and drugs all through my 20s. And then I cleaned myself up in my late 20s, and I just needed any job. So there was a car dealership by my house, and I just started selling cars. I just needed anything. And I was really good at it. Like, I didn't try to rip anybody off. I just treated people normally. I'm really good with people. And I just kept getting promoted and made money. And, it was fine. It was just the job. Then I got tired of retail, so I got a corporate job selling kitchen equipment to grocery stores. Now, I don't know if you can imagine a more boring job, but that was a pretty boring job that I toughed out for about 10 years and hated it. But it was great money. It was steady. It was a Fortune 500 company. I was calling on national accounts, so got to travel, corporate Amex. So it had some perks and stuff, but I just hated it. I didn't care about ovens. I go to these trade shows and I listen to these old sales guys, talking about these war stories from, hey, remember 30 years ago when this product came out and we made, $50,000? And I'm just like, who cares? Like, and I remember being at a trade show actually, and we're going in, and I hated going to these things. And there was a crowd of people, and I looked, and this guy had a heart attack and died. I literally, as I'm like walking up, he went down, and then we found out later, they cleared it and the EMTs and stuff came in, and he died. And of course I felt bad, but the first thing I thought of was I couldn't think of a worse place to go. Like, you wasted your life. I mean, for me, maybe he loved it. Maybe this was his job and he built a business around stuff. But for me personally, I couldn't think of a worse place to go. Like, the last thoughts in my head going, I was just talking about ovens to strangers and people I don't care about, and now I'm dead. Like, what did I do with my life? So I started reading like career books and how to pivot and change careers. And I read this book, and it was all about you can change your narrative at any time. So at any time of your life, and if you're listening or reading or watching this, if you're 50 years old and you're stuck in a job you hate, like many people are, and like I was, I can relate to you, it's not too late. You can all of a sudden decide, I want to be a hip hop writer because I really like about hip hop. But everybody's going to say, what do you know about hip hop? You're selling ovens and refrigerators to grocery stores, right? But she said, if you write about it, it's the cheapest way to get evidence. You need evidence that you're an expert in this new area you want to go in. So to make a long story short, and it's already long, but I just started blogging and writing and started a blog, and no one was reading. And Jessica Alba, I don't know if you know her, the actress, somehow found my little blog, shared an article I wrote on LinkedIn, and went viral. An editor at Forbes saw it and said, hey, do you want to write for us? And I said, well, sure, why not? I don't know. I'm not really a writer or anything, but I could probably fake it. So I started writing at Forbes, which, everything really came from Forbes. I got PR pitches and people started reaching out to me and reading to me. And I started getting these cool interviews. And I'm like, well, it's kind of a waste of a cool hour interview if I'm sitting down with Kate Hudson and I just get an 800-word article out of it. Like, there was a lot of cool stuff in there that doesn't fit in an article. So I'm like, well, why don't I just film it myself? And I lost $20,000 of real money my first year. I lost another $20,000 the next year. I had no, I mean, this wasn't a plan to make money or get rich. It was insane. My wife supported me. I just said, I don't know. I'm good with people. People seem to enjoy their time with me and open up. Like, I think somebody would want to watch this. I just want to pay editors and videographers every week to film this with no business plan or no income strategy or no income coming in, no plan for income coming in, and no like end date where in 2 years if this happens, like no plan whatsoever. I'm just like throwing money away every week like a fucking insane person. And long story short, well, you know, at the end of the day, in the third year, it started making money, and here we are.
Man, this is incredible. I have so many questions. So, okay. So wait, what was when you decided to make that pivot? What was the niche you were targeting? Was it celebrity content? Like, what was it then? Because you said you started blogging. So about what? Yeah.
That's a great question. So at first, you know, everybody, you know, I've read every book and watched every YouTube ever, you know, video ever, and most of them are right. They say niche down, find your niche, and you know, the smaller the better, right? Well, I didn't know what that was. I'm interested in a lot of things. I'm interested in health and fitness. I love music. I love, you know, a lot of things. So I would just write about whatever I wanted about, you know, whatever popped in my head, you know, that day. And then the Forbes editor found my niche for me. He said, okay, I want you to write about social media and marketing. I go, okay, I love social media. All right, let's run with that.
Love it. So that for some context, that the Jessica Alba retweet or share of that blog, it was a Rick Rubin listicle.
Correct. It was
that I tried to find, and for some reason I can't.
I know we redid the website a couple times and it didn't kind of go with the content I was doing now. So it's not there anymore. But yeah, I love music, like I said, and Rick Rubin, if you don't know who he is one of the greatest producers of all time. He's worked with everybody. So check him out. But I heard an interview he was on Tim Ferriss's show, and it was the silliest little article. It was just like, I'm in my car listening to it. I'm just kind of jotting down notes. Like, that's a good point. That's a good point. And it was something like 5 life lessons from Rick Rubin. And it couldn't have been more than 250 words. Mm-hmm. I just put it up with a picture of Rick Rubin and didn't think anything of it, you know, and then a couple of weeks later, all of a sudden I look at the traffic on the site. I'm like, oh my God, what happened? Because no one reads your blogs when you start posting. Yeah. Your mom might read it, 10 people might stumble on it. So that's the numbers I'm getting. So it goes from like, you know, 20 views an article to hundreds of thousands of views of an article overnight. I was like, wow.
That's amazing. That's what Jessica Alba can do for you. Yeah. So then, like, okay, so you mentioned, you know, you were investing, we'll call it investing into that new lane of business. Yes. Yeah, you were basically investing, you know, out of pocket, paying editors, video producers. How and when did you start to monetize?
At the third year, I finally started making money. I got my views to a good, consistent point. I had good content. I figured out really how to interview people. It's, as you know, it's not easy. You know, it's not a science. It's kind of a lot of finesse and, you know, directing a conversation, letting the guest talk, but you also have to insert yourself into the interview or no one's going to give a shit about your channel if you're not in it, right? So you have to get in there somehow too. So it took me 2 years to kind of get my style down, get the views down, get the channel healthy and professional, because I didn't know how to shoot anything or tell my editor what to do. And it's all about having a team. I had to find the right videographer and the right editor. And I went through a dozen before I found, you know, kind of a good crew.
Wow, that's a lot of people.
Then brands started reaching out to me, and to answer your question, that's how I started to monetize, just little brand deals, you know, hey, this video is brought to you by whoever, and put their logo on the screen and, you know, they pay me.
Love it. You've been covering like influencers as of late, right? That's been kind of like your, I'm not gonna niche you down, don't worry. but that is some sort of like niche. And I did read that there was like I didn't read the actual article, but you did interview like Jake Paul, right?
That was the first one. I mean, I stumbled. I don't focus on influencers anymore, just because I did it for a while and I've covered everybody and you could possibly imagine. And I was always interested more in the business side of them. So now I kind of focus on entrepreneurship and entrepreneurs from all walks of life. But yeah, to answer your question, yeah, I did influencers hard for about 4 years when no one was covering them. It was me and Taylor Lorenz, if you know who that is. That's it. She's a big writer. She used to write for the New York Times and stuff. No one was taking these kids seriously. And a PR guy pitched me Jake Paul. And look, I was in my late 30s. I have kids. I don't watch YouTube. I had no idea who Jake Paul was. I didn't know what a YouTuber was. I didn't know what an influencer was. But I looked him up. I go, who is this kid with 20 million subscribers that I've never heard of? Like, who is this? And like, what kind of business is this? Like, how does this all work? And I went from there.
This is insane. So, okay. So, you know, like what me and my I'm not going to say entourage. I'm going to say
you're big time, man.
I'm going to say me and my friends and colleagues and stuff like that. So, you know, we talk a lot about this intersection between like being a creator, being like having a business to back up, you know, the creation process, and being able to kind of monetize this creation process. And I like we all like in tech, we're seeing a lot of people like Sahil Bloom. I don't know if you know who that is. He's like has like almost 1 million Twitter followers, and he has a newsletter and stuff like that. And we're always thinking about like what's the next thing in terms of like monetization. So until now, it was pretty straightforward. If you had like a super big following on YouTube, you can monetize the actual channel. And then if you don't, you can basically do like brand deals, right? You can do brand deals and stuff like that. And like my question to you, you know, for someone who basically does this for a living, like where do you think like the next leap is, you know, in terms of sponsorship, advertising? Like, is there a new avenue that people should start like paying attention to?
Well, you don't have to look far. It's happening now. So you look at, and it's wild from starting with Jake Paul maybe 5 years ago to looking at where the influencer / creator world is now. It's night and day. So Jake 5 years ago, someone would pay Jake, hey, here's my energy drink. It's the greatest energy drink. I'll post on Instagram. This video is brought to you by whoever on YouTube. That's the only way to make money. YouTube AdSense, if you're not a YouTuber, you don't know. It doesn't pay you anything. You're not going to get rich off of AdSense revenue. I mean, so the money is in brand deals. But then you kind of look at how it evolved, right? Now, if you look at the big guys, if you look at the Charlie D'Amelios of the world, if you look at the Josh Richards, so if you don't know, he's a big TikToker, they have their own venture capital funds. These kids are no joke. So they went from, I'm going to do brand deals. Somebody's going to pay me money. I'm going to promote the product. The brand makes all the money. Then a couple of years go by and they wise up. You go, wait a minute. Why am I making Nabisco or, you know, Rockstar energy drinks all this money? Why don't I make my own energy drink and keep all the money myself? So then you started seeing them come up with their own products, and some just slapped their name on anything that came by, or maybe it was a hoodie and they're just sell my merch, you know, buy my merch. But then some took it seriously, and you know, like the D'Amelios, and came out with a real full fashion line, you know, that is like a standalone business, you know, where they came out with fragrances and all this other stuff. And then they got to the point where VC started taking notice, and they started kind of, maybe through their kids, and it's wild because I've been to events and stuff with these worlds colliding, and on paper it doesn't make any sense at all. Why is this 55-year-old VC guy from Silicon Valley talking to some 17-year-old TikToker who just dances for a living, right? It makes zero sense on paper. But it kind of does. Both are serious entrepreneurs in their own way. They know how to generate revenue, and they both have a long-term plan. So to answer your question, that's where I think it is, and it's going for the rest of the creator world, is you got to come up with your own product, and you also have to use your audience to tell you what product that is, right? You have to you have to build a community, and then use that community to build and sell your product. And then eventually you get in these ownership groups where you're buying startups, you're investing in startups, you're starting VC funds, that kind of stuff.
Mr. Beast is actually that's his you know, his net worth is close to, I heard, $1 billion or something. So that's what he does. He builds his own businesses. He invests everything back into the businesses, and then probably he's going to have leftovers to invest in other ventures, which will, increase his portfolio. I really love that. I'm going to tell you something, and I'm going to tell my audience something really interesting. We do PR for a lot of high profile tech startups, and for the past, I think, 6 months, we've been starting to get equity in some of those startups. So now we have a portfolio, of several startups that are our clients that we own equity in the company, right? So there you have it. That's like this, collab, and this is where things are going if you do a good job. If you have this added, leverage point that you can kind of offer yourself.
And that's a great point. And first of all, good job, you. It's smart. But that was the other thing I forgot to mention too. I interviewed David Dobrik. He's a big YouTuber. I got to know him a little bit. But if you look at what he's doing now, so he'll do the big brand deal for Kraft or whoever this big Fortune 500 company is. But if he's dealing with a smaller company, none of these big guys are doing it without a piece of the company. They want equity. And it may be, I want 10% and you're never going to see me and you're never going to hear from me, but I want it, right? And I want cash. I want both. Or it could be like, I really am into your product. I really like it. I use it. I want X. But for that, I'm going to be on your board. I'm going to get you additional investors. This is the stuff I can offer you guys. I think that's the better way to go. Just a quick, just give me equity and I'll slap my name on it. I think that second way is better for both parties.
Yes, I agree with you totally. And it's pretty interesting. It's pretty interesting because there's a difference between like getting equity and actually like sitting on the board and advising the company and actual deciding, and having like leverage on that point, and like meeting other people on the board that have other businesses, and then you can kind of expand. That's a really interesting point. And if we think about like the basics, the first principle of thinking, for someone to have that leverage, he has to build a personal brand, an enormous personal brand. You've been building your personal brand. You've been, getting into LinkedIn a lot recently. I don't know if you've been on LinkedIn. How long have you been on LinkedIn? Because I've been only seeing your content on LinkedIn for the past few months. That's it.
About 6 months since I quit my job and did this full time. I decided to focus on 3 channels: TikTok, Instagram, and LinkedIn. And LinkedIn, which I never bothered with before because I was in the influencer world, and though their audience isn't on LinkedIn. But now that my demo is 25 to 35-year-old male and female young entrepreneurs or aspiring entrepreneurs, well, guess what? They're on TikTok. So I'm on there every day. I post 3 times a day on there. I really like it. It's fun.
Love it. So, how do you, okay, let's talk a little bit, if you don't mind, about a few of you said you're an open book. So, about like the technical aspects, I'm always looking to optimize. There's a lot of people who are looking to optimize. How does your content creation look like today? Is it like a team that manage a lot of it? Is it like you hands-on running it? Just give us the spiel.
You know what? And not enough people talk about this, but I could never do this on my own. Now, I quit my job 6 months ago. So, I'm really burning through, I'm spending more than what's coming in, as anyone does when they start a business, or most people do when they start a business, right? You got to invest in it. And I burned myself out. I did try to do everything. I never filmed or edited my videos because I just didn't have time. And I really don't have that skill set. So my philosophy in life is hire the experts. I do that in my personal life. I'm not going to learn how to put together IKEA furniture. I'm not going to throw hammers across the house because I'm frustrated. But guess what? I told my wife this. I'll make enough where I can hire somebody to put that piece of furniture together, right? So it's the same thing with content. There's some things I can outsource and there's some things I can't. I can't outsource me, right? So I have to be there doing the interview. I have to book the guests. Me reaching out to somebody means more than some random PR person. No offense to PR people, I don't mean that at all. But the host reaching out, host of any show reaching out to the guest means more, right? Because you're kind of talking creator to creator in sometimes. So I've got to do that. I book the guests, I do the interviews, I set up the interviews, I kind of handle the production of them. The editor films them. I give very detailed notes. It takes me hours and hours to go through the video, cut this out, add this, put B-roll here, make this a TikTok clip, etc. And then, so I have a videographer slash editor, it's one person. And then I have somebody who manages my Instagram and LinkedIn, one guy, and then one person who manages my
TikTok?
LinkedIn and website.
Oh, okay. So when you do those note taking, and you said it takes you hours of hours, how do you structure that? Do you do it on a specific app? Do you do it on like a Google Doc? Do you do it on like paper?
You know what? I should ask you, what's the best way to optimize this? So what I do is, there's the guy I'm working with now, there's trust. There's a lot of trust. So I have to do less micromanaging, which is good. I'm trying, for 6 months, I was micromanaging everything until I got the right team in place to try to figure out, who's where. And I'm happy with, who we've got now. So, but basically it's me and, a Word doc.
Mm-hmm.
And it's quick stuff. Now it used to be from minute, 2 minutes and 13 seconds to 2 minutes and 45 seconds, make it, a TikTok and insert this picture here at 2 minutes and 32 seconds. That takes forever. So now the way I do it is, use this clip for the intro, then put the intro, cut these topics when we talk about this, and I won't give them, timestamps. And I really just give them timestamps for the actual clips I want for social media. Because the clips for social media get way more views than the long form content. So they're extremely important.
Yes, that's a really great point. And, like the Gary Vee method, where it's like one long form of content, and then you kind of, take one long form can be like 500 clips.
He is so right on with that. And that's what I do too.
Yeah. So I think everyone does that right now, because it's really the way, to go, and really way to get like to get the back on your buck, you know what I mean? Of the time invested. So, okay, I hear you. You basically just want to do the interview. You just want to do that part, and then everything gets kind of optimized and streamlined from there. I have a friend, Michael Matias.
And I have to write the Forbes article. I can't.
Oh, yes.
I hate doing it. It takes me forever, but it's me and it's my voice, and I can't have anyone else.
You do that, like you hands-on write the article.
100%. Every single one I've written, probably 200. I write them all.
Okay. Okay. In terms of like any specific content creators that you kind of look up to, or like entrepreneurs that you look up to, and you're like, hey, I like what this guy is doing. Like, I want to integrate that into my business. Do you have a list of that sort?
Of course. I mean, got a ton of influences. Probably interviewing is what I'm known for, and Howard Stern is my biggest inspiration of all time. I grew up in New Jersey. This is probably going worldwide. So, I'm from the East Coast of the US, and Howard Stern, if you don't know him, big radio personality. They used to call him kind of a shock jock in the day, because he would have naked strippers on and lesbians, kissing and stuff on traditional radio, which was like unheard of at the time. But, which was funny to me when I was 12 years old, and I was all about that content. But kind of as he evolved as a person, like now he just did an interview with Bruce Springsteen, and he's on Sirius satellite radio now, but it was so good they put it on HBO, just the interview. And I don't have any traditional media training. I went to business school. I never wrote for my newspaper or anything like that. But I got my 10,000 hours listening to Howard do an interview. And in my opinion, no one does a better interview than him. And he's interviewed everyone from Paul McCartney to Hillary Clinton to, just crazy strippers, and he can handle whoever you put in front of him. So by far, he's my number one guy. But as far as content creators that the audience would know, there's a guy, Stephen Bartlett from the UK, who does a really good job. He's different than me. I think my whole thing is I'm a regular guy, and that's my whole appeal, is I don't have it all figured out. I don't want to be a thought leader. I don't want to sell you a course, right? he is a successful entrepreneur. He's sold $1 million of companies, so he's got credibility. He does it a little more serious than I do, so he does it in a different way, but he has great guests on, CEOs, real hardcore business people. I like a guy like Lewis Howes, who's kind of more inspirational, but he does cover some entrepreneurs sometimes. He's got a great YouTube channel. Gary Vee, who's awesome. And they're the three that jump out. And then I probably learned more about this world just from the influencers I've interviewed, every single one of them, because I've got my MBA in this from the biggest people in the world, you know.
Yep.
After an interview with Charlie D'Amelio, hey Charlie, what am I doing wrong on TikTok? What can I do better on TikTok? How much is that conversation worth? Priceless.
Probably hundreds of thousands if I have to put like a number to it, for sure.
And I get that for free. It's an amazing thing to be in this world somehow.
And you're not doing that for free. You're actually getting paid to do that in a sense, because you monetize it. So that's incredible. That is really incredible when you think about it. Okay, you've been like super generous with your time. So I have two last questions. Okay. Yeah. So productivity wise, you know, through this conversation, I see you flapping that Apple Watch. I see you flapping that, you know, chunk of water. For people who don't see it, this is like a jar. It's
a half gallon. Kids drink a gallon of water a day. Drink 2 of these a day, every day.
Okay, so that's amazing. That you kind of, you know, so let's talk a bit about your productivity. Sure. First of all, I love gadgets. I don't own a lot of gadgets because I also like to only have gadgets that I actually use. What's your take on the Apple Watch?
I use it for more health and fitness purposes. You know, I'm a data geek. I've worked out my whole life, so I like to see what's my heart rate. You know, I like the different. I wear it when I sleep, so I like to track my sleep because that's extremely important to me. You know, you can grind hard, but you also have to rest and recover, and that's true with exercise or work, right? You can't work out hard 7 days a week, especially as you get older. You need rest days to recover. Every athlete does it. So, you know, I use it to track my sleep. I use it for meditation. I have a meditation app on there. I meditate every day. So that's probably the most gadgety thing I use.
And in terms of like your work structure, you wake up, like what are like the first things you do?
So it's probably not the best routine. I'm probably up at 4:30. I'm not.
What?
Yeah. Well, I have kids too, but I'm up at 4:30 in the morning, every morning. And like I said, I work out, but I can't work out in the morning. I wish I was one of those Mark Wahlberg guys where I take an Instagram picture of me, you know, 4 a.m. club, let's go lift. You know, that ain't me. I like to work out at 4 p.m. But so the first thing I do is I kind of just sit on the couch. I watch a show that I can't watch with my wife and kids. So whatever show I'm into, when they're home, I can't watch basketball. I can't watch my show. So that's my time to watch. So I start my day for a half hour scrolling through TikTok and watching TV, right? And having some form of caffeine. And then they wake up at 6:15, the kids and my wife. So then I'll take the next hour and actually work and kind of plan. I usually plan my day the night before. Somebody gave me a good tip on that. At the end of your day, every day, especially if you fail, if you're in sales and you have a bad sales day, it applies to that, but it applies to anything. You know, you look at what you did wrong, what you could do better, and then always have a plan for the next day. So I look at my, you know, plan as I'm watching TV, you know, for the day, kind of prioritize certain things and try to get the most important things done before they wake up. Because I know at 6:15, work stops. I'm making breakfast, I got kids crying, I got my wife running around. So then nothing gets done until I get back after they're all dropped off and stuff, about 7:30. And I'll work pretty much nonstop from 7:30 to 4:30 with maybe a 10-minute break for lunch. I try to use every minute because I can't work. Now I have kids and stuff. I can't work at 8:30 p.m. because that's family time. I got a couple hours with my kids that I want at night, and I got an hour or two with my wife at night, and I don't want to be working through that. I've done that, you know, so to do that, I've got to be very focused and productive and efficient during the day.
And how do you prioritize your day in the morning? Like on your calendar, you mark it on your calendar. Nice.
Notebook, my friend, a notebook. So if you look,
Nice.
post blog was #1 today, right? So that was the first thing I needed to do. I had to send a TikTok of somebody to somebody. That was easy. So that was 2. I had to do some guest outreach. I already banged that out. I had to do changes in my website. So
Love
I'll
it.
just, I usually don't use a notebook. I'll just I always have a blank piece of paper on my desk. And I'll jot down the things I need to do that day and I'll prioritize them. Sometimes it's harder for me to get moving in the morning. So I'll do simple. They always say like, do the hardest task first.
Yeah.
Fuck, sometimes that's overwhelming, right? So what I'll do is I'll just do something. I'll put on Spotify and make an Amazon return, right?
Yeah.
Buy something online that I needed to buy. Just like little things to kind of get me going help sometimes.
So, okay, so a few really interesting things from your daily routine here, and don't mind if I dissect them and kind of, so.
Dissect, criticize, do whatever you want.
No, I'm not going to criticize at all. Not at all, man. It's just like something really interesting. So, as I told you before, Convo, I grew up in Cali as well. And it's really interesting, man. People in the US, they sleep early and they wake up early, like 4 a.m., 5 a.m. early. Here in Israel and in Europe, it's not like that.
No.
It's usually you sleep late and you wake up a bit late.
Yep.
So, like, why do you think is that? Like, do you have like an idea?
It's an excellent question. I've traveled a little bit, and it's funny. I love Spain. I would love to live in Spain, and I would love to have a 3-hour European dinner. I say that, but I actually don't think I would. It sounds good on paper, but I think I'd get bored after an hour. Like, what are we doing now, guys? I mean, do we really need a 4th course? Can I just eat and do something else, right? I just think but I would say the rest of the world, Israel, Europe, the Eastern world especially, I think they do have it right and we don't, right? If you look at the US, we have the least amount of vacation. We have the least amount of maternity leave, right? It's grind, grind, grind. And it's maybe just an American kind of, work hard and you can accomplish, the American dream. You can come from nothing, which is true. You can do
It is true. It is true.
You can't do that in most of the other places.
Yeah.
So that is the great thing about the country. Good, but the downside is, we are kind of working ourselves silly, Even I'm in California, I have kids. When I grew up in New Jersey, we had 3 months off for summer. We had, it'd be Labor Day or would it be Memorial? I think we get out like early June, and then we'd go back like the 2nd week of September after Labor Day, which is a holiday in the US. So we had about 3 months off. My kids don't have 3 months off. They get about 2, little less than 2. Kids are working harder now. I don't know. I think you guys haven't figured out and you guys are living a healthier life.
Well, sure. I'll tell you something. We do work like the workaholics of us, which I might be one of them. We do work a lot, but we work into the night instead of very early into the morning, me personally. So that's interesting. What kind of
and
shows?
That's fine. There's nothing wrong with that. Work when you can work. Who cares?
Exactly. Yeah, you read about those like Renaissance men, like, Da Vinci and Picasso and, Da Vinci, we'll say it again because he's worth it. They had this like crazy work schedule that worked for them. Like, do what works for you. That's like the thing.
Pause on that real quick, because I just saw a great meme yesterday and I completely agree. It was just a picture. It was a meme. It was just a picture of a guy running at night and it was dark. Okay. And it said, you don't have to work out at 5 a.m. Anytime's a good time. And I completely agree, because you look at these influencers and all these thought leaders and it's, I wake up at 4 a.m. and then I have my matcha tea and all this fucking bullshit. Who gives a
bullshit?
It is bullshit. Guess what? Hey, if you want to work till 10 o'clock at night, work at 10 o'clock at night. I'm not a morning person. I have to because of, kids and family change things. But if it was up to me, my ideal work time would be probably like 10 to about 7 and then have a later dinner. But, you have different circumstances. But if you're a morning person, cool. And if you're an afternoon person, don't let the morning people make you feel bad about yourselves. You're just as good as them. Fuck them. They're not any fun.
Exactly, man. Fuck them. And that's also bullshit because, when you actually interview the leading entrepreneurs, like, I've heard interviews with Elon Musk and I interviewed a lot of high profile, VCs and entrepreneurs. They like everyone's different. Like some guy just scrolls through his phone like for 3 hours, then like grinds like crazy. And like everyone has their own system. So like that's definitely something to pay attention to. I'm interested. What shows do you binge watch right now? What's on your list?
Right now, I'm watching Kaleidoscope on Netflix.
Oh,
It's a
okay.
number
It's a
two
new
show in
thing.
the US right now. Yeah, it's pretty interesting because you can watch it in any order of the episodes. Of course, I just watched them in chronological order, but you could watch like the third episode first, then the fifth, and it doesn't matter. So I watch like whatever's new and hot, whatever's. There's never been a better time for TV than right now.
That's for sure.
I love watching TV. People say it's a waste of time. I love
It's
it.
not.
I wish there was more hours in the day I could watch TV. I really do. That's part of the reason I wake up early is just to catch up on shows. Well, I love it. I just don't have time to watch 4 hours a day, but there's so much good stuff out there.
There is. Any book recommendations? Something you kind of want to give our audience?
I'm always reading something ever since I was a kid. Let's throw some oddball ones at you. I love the autobiography of a yogi by Yogananda. It's not all true, but it's just an interesting way of life from kind of a guru kind of guy. Power of Positive Thinking, loved it. The Greatest Salesman in the World was great.
Matthew, I just a short note here. Matthew McConaughey said that book like impacted his career. Like
which one?
The Greatest Salesman Alive.
Oh, it was great. I used to read that, and I was the #1 sales guy every single month after month. And I don't know, it just puts you in a good mindset. They're the three that jump out now, just off the top of my head.
Yeah. Okay. So, before we wrap this up, I have to tell you something. I have to ask you something, and you need to confirm this. How many? And you live in LA, so maybe you get that even more than I think you might have been getting this. How many times a day do people tell you you look like Kelly Slater?
None.
What?
No, I never get Kelly Slater. You know the one I've been getting?
What?
And I tell my wife, and I just brag. This only happened like 3 comments out of about 1 million, but I just got it the other day. They're like, "You look like the bald Zac Efron," and I'm like, first of all, I wish I looked like Zac Efron, and second, if I could only have Zac Efron's abs, I'd be good. But the one I get most is Johnny Sins. I guess he's a porn actor.
Johnny Sins. He's a porn actor.
Sins. Google him. I guess I look like him. He's a bald. I don't know. He's a bald.
Johnny Sims.
Sin, S-I-N. Johnny Sin or Sins?
Johnny Sins, I think. Yeah, American. Let me see this guy. Man, you're much better looking than him. He's good looking, but you're better. You're better.
I appreciate that, brother. Thank you.
But this whole conversation, I'm like, man, does he know he looked like? He probably knows he looks like Haley Slater, like the surfer. For people who don't know, man,
he's much better. If you're just listening to this, don't believe the hype. He is much better looking than me. The guy dated Pam Anderson. No, Pam's not going to call me. Okay, let's make that clear.
Well, I think it's because he was probably more famous than you had, but anyways.
This was fun, man. Well, thank you for having me on, man. This was a pleasure.
Thank you so much, Tom, man, for doing this. And the audience can follow you on TikTok, Instagram, LinkedIn, and check out the Tom Ward Show on YouTube. Highly recommend it.
Cool. And I'm Tom Ward Official on LinkedIn, TikTok, and Instagram. So check me out there.
Awesome. No, but on LinkedIn, you're just Tom Ward.
Am I?
Yeah, you are.
Okay, I'm just Tom Ward then. I trust
you. See, I'm helping you build your brand even better than you do for yourself. You see?
See, like I said, I outsource that. I don't even know what my handle is. What do I know?
Okay, you see?
All right.
Awesome. Thanks, man.
Thanks.